Welcome back to TruthCraft, a channel devoted to pursuing the truth while playing Minecraft. I want to apologize for being gone for a while. I don't think I've uploaded a video for the past month or two. And the reason for that is just family busyness over the summer and some trips that we took. So I wasn't able to get around to much, but hopefully now I'll be on a bit more of a consistent schedule. You know, I find it interesting as a kid how the most free time is the summer, and of course the difficult time is the school year. And as an adult, the opposite is true, especially when you have wife and kids and you do all kinds of stuff in the summer with family. So now I'm looking forward to the rhythm of the year coming up. Today I want to talk a bit more about abortion. Specifically, I want to speak about a simple logical case against abortion, probably the simplest way to demonstrate that it's an immoral practice, apart from appealing just to the scriptures or something along those lines. So, again, I want to use the simplest form of logic, that is a syllogism, to answer what I think is one of the most challenging moral questions of our time. Not challenging in terms of complex or complicated, but challenging in terms of it's being challenged. Something that is obviously wrong is being practiced. So I want to show you how a syllogism can demonstrate the immorality of abortion. Now, I've talked about syllogisms before in previous videos. A syllogism is a form of logic that offers typically two premises and a conclusion. It's set up in such a way so that if the two premises hold true, the conclusion necessarily follows. Now, before I give you the syllogism, I want to make it clear that this argument will not address outlier abortion cases, such as whether abortion to save the life of a mother is wrong. It's also not addressing forced abortions or accidental abortions or anything of that nature. Maybe I'll address those in a future video. Instead, this argument addresses the most common reasons for having an abortion. What are those reasons? Well, in a peer-reviewed study done by the Guttmacher Institute, the researchers concluded that the reasons most frequently cited, I'm quoting here, the reasons most frequently cited for having an abortion were that having a child would interfere with a woman's education, work, or ability to care for dependents. That's 74% of people who responded to the survey. That she could not afford a baby now, 73% also gave that answer. And that she did not want to be a single mother or was having relationship problems, 48%. Nearly 4 in 10 women said they had completed their childbearing, and almost 1/3 were not ready to have a child. Fewer than 1% said their parents' or partners' desire for them to have an abortion was the most important reason. Younger women often reported that they were unprepared for the transition to motherhood, while older women regularly cited their responsibility to dependents. So, educational, vocational, financial, or other responsibilities. Those are the main reasons for having an abortion. In other words, people are simply too busy or too poor, so they think, to have the baby. Now here's the syllogism. Premise 1, a fetus is a human life. Premise 2, taking a human life to make one's own life easier is wrong. Conclusion, taking the life of a fetus for convenience or to make one's own life easier is wrong. Premise 1, a fetus is a human life. Let me read to you the summary of an article by Stephen Andrew Jacobs. Peer-reviewed journals in the biological and life sciences literature have published articles that represent the biological view that a human's life begins at fertilization. We call this the fertilization view. As those statements are typically offered without explanation or citation, the fertilization view seems to be uncontested by the editors, reviewers, and authors who contribute to scientific journals. However, Americans are split on whether the fertilization view is a philosophical or religious belief, 45%, or a biological and scientific fact, 46%, and only 38% of Americans view fertilization as the starting point of a human's life. In the two studies that explored experts' views in the matter, the fertilization view is the most popular perspective held by public health and IVF professionals. Since a recent study suggested that 80% of Americans view biologists as the group most qualified to determine when a human's life begins, experts in biology were surveyed to provide a new perspective to the literature on experts' views on this matter. Biologists from 1,058 academic institutions around the world assessed survey items on when a human's life begins, and overall, 96%, that's 5,337 out of 5,577, affirmed the fertilization view. The founding principles of the field science communication suggest that scientists have an ethical and professional obligation to inform Americans, as well as people around the world, about scientific developments, so members of the public can be empowered to make life decisions that are consistent with the best information available. Given that perspective, and a recent study's finding that a majority of Americans believe they deserve to know when a human's life begins in order to make informed reproductive decisions, science communicators should work to increase the level of science awareness on the fertilization view, as it stands alone as the leading biological perspective on when a human's life begins. In other words, nearly all biologists agree that human life begins at fertilization, that is, when sperm meets egg, even though only about half of Americans, or even less than half of Americans, believe that this is true. On this understanding, ending a pregnancy even the morning after sex would qualify as taking a human life. So according to the vast majority of biologists, ending a pregnancy even the day after conceiving the child would qualify as actually taking a human life. Premise 2. Taking a human life to make one's own life easier is wrong. We all understand that taking another person's life is wrong in most cases. In most cases, we would simply call this murder. However, society does typically recognize some cases where it is permissible. These tend to include war, self-defense, and capital punishment, although all of these are contested. For most people, taking another person's life, especially without their consent, because they are a financial strain on you or because they interfere with your work or education, would not only be considered murder, but actually murder of an incredibly selfish and heinous kind. Murder for revenge is still wrong, but I think we can all understand how a person might take such drastic measures if they have been severely wronged. Murder for those other selfish and self-serving reasons is one of the highest wrongs that can be imagined, on the other hand. Now add into that the fact that the one doing the killing in these instances is the mother of the child. Listen to what the theologian John Calvin has to say about this. The fetus, though enclosed in the womb of its mother, is already a human being, and it is an almost monstrous crime to rob it of the life which it has not yet begun to enjoy. If it seems more horrible to kill a man in his own house than in a field, because a man's house is his place of more secure refuge, it ought surely to be deemed more atrocious to destroy a fetus in the womb before it has come to light. But, of course, our culture currently sees it the opposite way. As long as we don't see the fetus, as long as we can't see that it's a human life or that it looks like a human being later on, it doesn't really matter if it's killed, right? It's not convenient for us to know that information. But if it was out of the womb, the minute it transitions to life outside of the womb, or if it's a toddler or even older, then it's a major crime. But of course we see the inconsistency here. Finally, conclusion. Taking the life of a fetus to make one's own life easier is wrong. So if the fetus is a human life, and taking a human life to make one's own life easier is wrong, then the conclusion necessarily follows that abortion in almost every case is wrong, since almost every case is for convenience, as the study I quoted earlier shows. Not only is it wrong, but it ought to be considered murder. So now I'm sure that many people are already thinking of objections to this argument, but I'd really urge you to be slow and to be cautious in giving objections. We're dealing not just with some philosophically abstract idea. We're dealing with human lives. Please consider, right? Please think before you speak and before you make comments about these kinds of things, because people's lives are genuinely at stake. And it has happened many times in the past that societies have gotten huge moral and ethical issues dreadfully wrong. So just because you think it's true, just because you were brought up to believe it, just because everybody around you believes it, does not mean it's true. Now, I plan to make videos addressing different objections to this view in the future. If you still have questions about whether a fetus is a human life, or whether taking a human life to make your own life easier is wrong, don't worry. I'll make more videos exploring those topics in depth very soon. Now, if logic, of course informed by mercy and compassion, leads us to say that abortion is wrong, I hope that we'll all be bold to stand against it. So, are you willing to change your view, or will you simply believe what so many around you say? And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching to the end. Leave a like and subscribe, and hope to see you soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.